What's going on? This is Rhadi Ferguson and JC Santana back together again in sunny Boca Raton, Florida. We have the Institute of Human Performance, the home of Olympians, world champions, soccer moms, and people like everyday people like JC and I. You know, I don't consider us to be
everyday.
Because we don't really go to a job. We have our own jobs. We appreciate the job that you allow us to do. So I want to talk today about when we actually went into combat. Combat was a company that we created, absolutely fantastic. I think we turned the grappling world on its ear. We were writing for one of the biggest magazines in the industry at the time. I think we created like 8 or 9 DVD series that were, awesome.
There's still great information. I've seen some of the DVDs back then with Marcus Aurelio and all of the cats that Renato. It's like, that stuff today, 10 years later, today is still relevant.
It's still relevant. It's still quality. We had some of the boxing DVDs that we did. One of those guys right now is one of the top 3 boxers in the world.
Yeah.
What his name is.
We had Luis Arias and we had Steven Jafar.
Yeah.
And he won, I don't even know, 5 Golden Gloves, Silver Gloves, and now he's a top pro prospect. So
that was 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Well, it's a little more than 10. I guess I finished the Olympics and I got married when I was 27. Finished the Olympics in 2004. Came down here, worked at 2005. I remember when I came to Boca Raton, Florida, and I sat down with my wife and we were doing taxes, man. I think I made it like $85 million that year. And I sat on that bed. Listen, I can laugh now, but I'm telling you, I sat on the couch and I cried. I had $55,000 in debt from American Express that I quite honestly paid off last year because the Olympics
took you to the bank.
it takes you, and what happens is you're young, you try to start a family, and there was a lot of pressure, and I didn't really understand the ins and outs of starting a business. I was a young dude. You could say, I can look back at 40. At 42, I'll probably look at myself when I'm 52 and think I was immature, and at 42, I can look at myself at 32 and say I was immature. And I'm sure you can look at yourself 10 years later and say, man, you know what I'm saying? And think how much you learned over a period of time. And there was just so much, man, that I had to learn. And what I had that was great, I had vigor, I had a healthy sense of ego at the time, I had work ethic, and sometimes I just had that go zero to hero stuff that works well in the sporting environment that doesn't work well in life. And
business. I remember telling Rhadi, I said, you're in my world now. Remember that?
Right.
I said, on the mat, you're a black belt. I said, here, I'm the one with the black belt. And he was coming strong. I remember his first client here at IHP was this young boy. His father was a doctor. He's right here, 10 feet from me. And he's hollering obscenities for the most part at this kid. What you want? And the kid is about to cry. The dad's like,
pass out.
What the heck is going on? And we're all listening here, like, bro, you ain't gonna make it as no trainer like that, This kid damn near peed his pants. The dad was in culture shock. And I go, Rhadi, that intimidation that you do on the mat, that works well there. It doesn't work well here, man. You can't do that, But like you said, he had great work ethic. And we started into combat. Those 8 DVDs were done like in 5 months. They were not done over 10 years. We had 8 DVDs that were done, in rapid succession, 3 manuals to go along with them. We were blowing up the combat world because it was grappling, it was kickboxing, it was jiu-jitsu, gi jiu-jitsu, no gi jiu-jitsu, boxing and kickboxing. So, it was incredible. And into combat was growing very, very, very fast. And then what? Then what happens?
Well, you kind of learn a good lesson about business. I'm looking at the money coming in, and I'm thinking gross. But you're looking at it gross. And I didn't understand expenses. And when you look at gross and you're doing the business, you're like, hey man, where's all my money?
Where's my money, man?
They say, no.
Here you go. You see these lights?
The water,
those shorts that we're giving away, those shorts that we're wearing.
all the DVDs that we made, it was like being in the music. It was like being in the music industry.
Yeah, the DVDs that at $100 a linear minute. You know
Right.
that? Yeah. And the graphics and the artists.
So it was just so different. The one thing that I learned from working with JC was you make a product, make sure you make it so that nobody can come behind you and make the same thing. And early in my career, I was so concerned. I'm reading a book about this now. I think the book was called Get to the Why. Early in my career, I was just concerned with a transaction. Just getting a transaction, getting a higher dollar amount transaction, getting transaction. And I was so concerned about getting transactions that I wasn't focused on customer loyalty. And I had to learn a hard lesson about that the first 3 to 5 years of my business career because, man, can I call it bad advice? I think it was good advice that was not partitioned and localized for where it needed to be at the time because I wasn't listening to anybody. Because I was so good at what I did, I was just so used to grinding my way through to get to where I needed to be. But it's kind of like, Moses in the desert. You know what I mean? You could be walking for a long time and not going nowhere. You know, and I was moving, but I wasn't really going anywhere. And I kind of needed some advice, some mentoring, some divination, and during that period of time. But the honestly, the truth is, I wanted to do some things by myself. And JC honestly had to say, hey man, I need to let you go so you can do some things by yourself, so you can learn what you need to learn. Because man, I had one kid at the time, now I got 2. How many kids you got? 4. Now we can sit down and talk now, and we see things way differently than we saw 10 years ago. But the beautiful thing about the process of life is sometimes the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plane. And you got to back away from a thing to see the thing more clear. And this is, just honestly, goodness truth. JC and I work beautifully together. JC and I also tried to reconvene this a little bit too soon, like 3 or 4 years ago. Still different places, different spaces. But here's the one thing that I know about JC and that JC knows about me. 2 people, pure heart, great intentions. Yep. And the only thing that we're concerned about, to be honest with you, is growth, family, man, and legacy. And I had to get to that point. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't see myself. I never saw myself robbing or stealing from anybody. And I'm sure people who rob and steal from people in the parking lot don't see themselves doing that either. However, sometimes your life circumstances will make you do some things that you didn't think you want to do. Now, I've never robbed and I never stolen from anybody because I don't believe in that thing. But man, when you're broke and if you look at your bottom line at $8,500, you're really concerned with money and transactions. Yeah, because it's hard to eat loyalty at that time, you know.
You know, one of the things that I've learned in business and just in life, and recently going through this, no matter how much you love a person, because it normally happens in relationships. It doesn't happen in business with inanimate objects. It happens in relationships. And sometimes, whether it's a son, a cousin, a friend, a partner, lover, whatever, you want to teach this person something, you know, principles, you know, and they're not going to learn it with you. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. And as a mature person that's been there already, you go, why can't you listen? You know, every parent here has gone through it with a kid. Why don't you listen? Learning it would be so easy. I'm giving it to you. I've already been there. Here's how you get it done. They can't learn it like that. They can't learn it like that. And for the wise person, the older person, it takes a lot to let it go. Sometimes it means you gotta let the kid move away to college, or move away out of state and start their own life somewhere, okay? Sometimes it means you gotta break up with your partner and say, I wish it could have worked, but it can't work because the lessons they need to learn are not yours to teach. And you can't teach them that. Because how are you going to teach somebody to learn the lesson that they need to learn by getting robbed? What are you going to rob them? You're not going to rob them because you love them. But that's not the lesson. The love ain't the lesson. The lesson is going out there and getting railroaded by 3, 4, 5 people for them to go, oh, I get it now. It's like, and when we got there, Rhadi wanted to do solo projects, you know, and you gotta understand, he's like, you know what, go do the solo projects, bro, you know. At the same time, you got 2008 rolling around, and one of the things that spurred on all this stuff is that 2008 rolls around with that big ass recession that knocked everybody out, from Circuit City all the way down. Everybody went out of business. So of course, money scares. There's an environment of fear in this country. Everybody's closing, so we're feeling it too. He's feeling it, and he's like, I gotta do something. So he has his avenues in judo and his solo stuff. Boom, he takes off, and I take off to Europe.
That was a really good perspective. I recognize that, but we never talked about this.
No, this is live.
I didn't know that you recognized that too.
Of course, man.
Because your business, my business, the business in total.
Everybody's taking a beating.
Everybody's taking a beating. It was a financial crunch.
Yep.